Number two is that Bears historic comeback. Chicago Bears erased an 18-point halftime deficit. It was the largest playoff comeback in franchise history. Welcome to Just the Stats, NFL Top 10's for Tuesday. Welcome back. My name's Ernie Jennings, and we are going to be looking at the playoff games from the last weekend. There were some really close games. They kept announcing throughout the games how many lead changes had taken place, which was like a record for when you combine all the games over the weekend. So it was quite a entertaining weekend for your teams. If they won, if they lost, like the Jaguars, that was very disappointing. Now I just have to hang my hat on. They had a good season compared to last year. 9-game improvement. That's pretty good. But most of the games were pretty close. Back and forth, came down to the end. Not the game last night on Monday, though. But for most of them, it was a very close game. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to look at the top 10 keys to why one team won and one team lost. So we'll just go through that. That'll give me a chance to give you some reasons I think a team won, and then we can also compare that with the stats for that particular game. So that's what we'll do. We'll also look at, briefly at the end there, the schedule and the odds for the games coming up next weekend. All those games will be on 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. Unlike this Monday night game, it's a little bit unfair, it seems to me, for Houston. But I guess that's the way it goes. I mean, even for Buffalo, played on Sunday, they have to play on Saturday now. So I guess it's basically the same type of thing, except that you played Monday night, and now you got to play on Sunday afternoon. So a little bit different. But anyway. All right, let's start with the first game. We'll go in the order the games were played. The first game was the Los Angeles Rams versus the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Carolina Panthers beat the Rams the first time they played a few weeks ago. Well, so everybody figured that the Rams would just steamroll the Panthers. Well, that did not happen. They did win. The Rams did win 34-31, but it was close. So let's look at the top 10 keys to why the Rams won and the Panthers lost. Number one, Matthew Stafford. He had a late game execution. On the final drive of the game, Stafford went 6 for 7, marching 71 yards down the field for the game-winning TD. He's just, there's other quarterbacks too, but his poise under pressure was probably the single biggest separator in why the Rams won. Now, Puka Nacua, number two. Puka Nacua's impact. He did have one big drop in the game, but they could not keep him away from the ball. He just kept catching pass after pass. So in this game, Stafford went 24 for 42 for 304 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Only sacked one time. Puka Nacua caught 10 of those passes for 111 yards and a touchdown. And then he threw in 3 rushes for 14 yards and a touchdown. So he accounted for 125 yards of offense on 13 touches, and he had 2 touchdowns. So he was just such a big impact in this game. And he was a constant problem for Carolina's secondary. And, Carolina kept making adjustments, but they just could not track Nacua. He seemed to find a way to get open. And even when it was a tight coverage, he still made some incredible catches. Another key to this game was the fact that the Rams did jump out to a 14-point lead, which put Carolina on having to change their game plan, which probably was a little bit more trying to control, run the ball a little bit more. They did fall behind, and early. Rams jumped out to 14-0, but Carolina came back. At halftime, it was 17-14, so they did pull back into the game. but it just made Carolina have to chase, put them in that mode of chasing to get back into the game versus what they probably rather have done, which was to control the game, run it a little bit more. Another key in this game was Carolina's defensive penalties. Just the timing was terrible on some of their penalties. That helped extend the drives. And those are like, the penalties are hidden yards. All right, number 5, and this is Bryce Young. He's I feel like he has been improving year after year, but still a little bit to go for him. He played well overall, but he just could not match Matthew Stafford, and not many quarterbacks are going to be able to match Stafford. I mean, he doesn't have the arm, and he doesn't have the experience. It's just two huge factors. Bryce Young has not experienced the playoffs the same way. So Carolina ended up stalling on a lot of drives when they needed to get a score. So in this game, Bryce Young was 21 out of 40, so just over 50%, 264 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 2 sacks. He had a quarterback rating of 71.2 versus Matthew Stafford, who had a quarterback rating of 93.8. So the interceptions hurt both teams, but Bryce Young just did not play quite as well as Matthew Stafford. Number 6, the Rams' field goal stability. Harrison Mevis, their kicker, had a huge, important kick. He went 4 for 4 on points after touchdowns and 2 for 2 on field goals. Both of them were over 40 yards. And the one in the end of the third quarter broke a tie. It was a key field goal, but he made every field goal. He made every extra point. And those 3 points that he made a difference. So that was important there. The kicker for Carolina wasn't bad either, but Mevis was a pivotal player in this game. Number 7, Panthers' failure to capitalize on the Rams' mistakes. And that was the interception. LA gave Carolina many chances, and they failed in the red zone. They had a pass interference call, and the Nacua drop before halftime. None of these things could the Panthers capitalize on. Carolina tied the game twice, but they could never, deliver the knockout punch that the Rams were able to do. Number 8, Rams' offensive balance and experience. Well, obviously, this is a big one here. I mean, there's a huge difference between the two offenses. The Rams had the number 1 offense in yards and points going into this game, and it showed. They racked up a lot of yards in this game. In fact, they had 411 yards in the game, total net yards between rushing and passing. So a lot of points off of those yardage. On the other hand, Carolina just couldn't put it together all the time. It was just the key to their loss. In fact, on 3rd and 4th down for Carolina, actually they had a better percentage on 3rd downs than the Rams did, but they were 5 for 12 on 3rd down for 41%. But on 4th down, they went for it 3 times and could never make a 4th down conversion. That was costly. Number 9, 4th quarter chaos favored the more composed team. Like, as they were saying, there was turnover. There was back and forth in this game, as in the other games. And this game tied an NFL record with 4 fourth quarter lead changes in the game. But it was the Rams that came out on top. They handled it better. Each time they fell behind, they came back and pulled ahead. And then finally, Sean McVay's situational mastery. He just is a great play caller. And on that last drive where Stafford went 6 for 7, it just kept Carolina off balance, the plays that were being called. Again, Carolina was strong in this game. I mean, they did score 31 points. This is going to be a problem for the Rams, is their defense. But in the end, it was the experience of the Rams that pulled this game out. So they get to move on. All right, let's move on to the next game, and that's Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. Wow. Chicago Bears win this game 31-27. The Bears continue to amaze me. I don't get it really, but we'll look at the 10 keys to the Bears winning and the Packers losing. Number 1, Caleb Williams' second half transformation. He was horrible the first half, had 2 early interceptions, but he ends up throwing in the game for 361 yards, including 2 touchdowns, and including the game winner to DJ Moore. So it never didn't seem to rattle him that he started off so poorly. In fact, Green Bay's winning this game at halftime 21-3. Chicago Bears scored 25 points in the fourth quarter to pull this game out. It's crazy. Number 2 is that Bears historic comeback. Chicago Bears erased an 18-point halftime deficit. It was the largest playoff comeback in franchise history. It was just incredible. But this is not really new to them. This late in the game comebacks and to win. Number 3, the Packers' total second half collapse. Green Bay scored 21 points in the first half, 3 touchdowns, and in the second half, all they could manage was a touchdown, but they missed that extra point. So Green Bay, 21 points, 3 touchdowns, 3 extra points in the first half, and that extra point was key as well. They just were like complete opposite teams from the first half to the second half, but it is how you finish, not how you start sometimes. The Packers' special teams failures, and this is key. Their kicker, Brandon McManus, missed a 50-yarder. He missed an extra point, and he missed a 44-yarder late in the game. That's 7 points right there. That's the game. You can't, okay, 50 yards plus, it's 55 yards. He should still make that. But he missed a 44-yarder late in the game, too. That was key. I mean, they lost by 4 points. The fact that that extra point was probably as important as the field goals, because if he makes the extra point, they're not trying to get a touchdown at the end of the game. They're trying to get a field goal. Huge difference. Number 6, DJ Moore's game-changing play. With only 1:43 left in the game, DJ Moore catches a 25-yard touchdown pass down the sideline, and that was the knockout punch. It was just a nice run route, perfect pass, and just a great catch. And what timing. It was really a fun game. If you didn't have interest in either team one way or the other, really, it was really a fun game to watch. Number 8, Bears won the fourth quarter again. This is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. This is the 7th fourth quarter comeback for this team this season. Fourth quarter comeback win. It doesn't seem to faze them when they're down 21-3. You know, they just came back 25 points in the fourth quarter and they pulled the game out. And didn't seem to be that anything that the Packers defense could do to stop them. And which kind of leads to the other half of it, though. The Packers offense still was playing, and that was number 9, Jordan Love's inability to close. He threw for 323 yards, but he couldn't finish the game off. He just couldn't. The second half, it was just a different person. And they needed that big play to stop the momentum of the Chicago Bears, and they couldn't get it. And that's Jordan Love. When he's on offense, the defense is giving up the scores. He can come out and lead their team to another score. I mean, he had 4 touchdowns. Green Bay did, and yet they couldn't get what they needed to in the end of the game. And that falls on Jordan Love. Number 10, Ben Johnson's halftime overhaul. He's been a great coach for this team. He's really helped Williams. Williams last year, like I've mentioned this in looking at some of the stats, he's in the top 5 all time in sacks in a single season, close to breaking the record. This year, half that just about. I mean, it was an incredible change there in teaching him how to be a good quarterback in the NFL. And Williams has taken to it, and Johnson's really improved his play, which has led to the Chicago Bears being where they are now. He just flipped that script in this game. They're losing. He switched the tempo, more tempo in the game. He had better protection schemes for their defense, and the team just ran better routes, and they ended up just, knocking the Green Bay Packers out again. It's just a different team in the second half. So a big win for Chicago. They move on. Now looking at my least favorite game here, the Buffalo Bills beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 27-24. So we'll go through this one quickly. 10 keys to why the Bills won and the Jags lost. Josh Allen's number one, obviously. Physical dominance. He got beat up. Man, he got hurt. He had to be checked for a concussion. He hit his hand on the helmet when he threw a pass, and that was hurting. He got sacked. Even when he was falling in the end zone, he twisted his leg, but he still had 2 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown. Tough player. On the game-winning drive, they're down 24-20. Holy cow, the Jaguars just couldn't stop him. Similar to the Packers Packers' inability, I should say, to stop the Bears. It was the same type of thing. 4 minutes to go in the game. Engineered a 9-play, 66-yard drive and finished it off with a 1-yard run into the end zone. Number 3, the Jaguars' defensive breakdown on Brandon Cooks. Of all people, Brandon Cooks. He had a 36-yard catch on a busted coverage, which was key in the game. Too many times, the Jaguars had the Bills at 3rd to 5, 3rd to 10, and the Bills would get a first down. It was terrible to watch consistently giving up 3rd down conversions. I hated it. Number 4, Trevor Lawrence's turnovers. He had 2 interceptions. One was early in the game, which was he just did not see the defender, threw it right to him. He kind of zoned in too much on the player he was throwing to, wasn't paying attention, I guess, or wasn't aware, whatever it was. But the defender was just standing there waiting for the ball, intercepted it. And then at the end of the game, with a minute to go, with the kicker that the Jaguars have, all they needed was 15, 20 yards, and they were in field goal range. But the first play, with a minute to go, when they get the ball back after the Bills took the lead, Trevor Lawrence threw another interception. Now, this one went off the hands of the receiver and into the other team's hands, and that was game right there. Number 5, Jacksonville Jaguars' inconsistent offensive rhythm. Man, it looked terrible. They've been playing so well, averaging well over 30 points a game. And they did look good sometimes in this game, but then other times, man, it's like, what is going on with this offense? It was just too many punts, just some bad, especially in the first half. After the first half, they only had 7 points, and they just did not look like they were no consistency, I should really say. I don't know. It was just hard to watch. It was like, what is happening here? They didn't seem to know what they exactly wanted to do. Number 6, Bills' red zone execution. Bills scored touchdowns on their key red zone trips, and 2 of them were Allen rushing it in, while Jacksonville left points on the field. That's a big key there too. Number 7, Jaguars' 4th and 2 gamble backfired. That's the key. Jaguars are winning this game 7-3. They move the ball down to about I guess it would have been about the 8-yard line. And it's 4th and 2. Jaguars decide to go for it instead of kicking the field goal. They don't get it because it appeared they initially got the first down, but then on replay, you can see Trevor Lawrence's leg on the ground before he stretched out for the first down. That's a turnover. Bills get the ball back. They go 92 yards after that turnover. Now, if they'd have kicked the field goal, the Jaguars would have been up by a touchdown. They would have been up 10-3. I get going for it almost on any other situation, but as people have said, points are precious in the playoffs. And when it puts you up by a full touchdown, that's why I would have went for it. If it would have been a field goal and they go up 6-3 and they're only up by 3 points, okay, I get it. Or even if they would have went up 9-3, I still would have got maybe going for it because you want to be up by at least a touchdown. But the opportunity to go up 10-3 instead of turning it over and you're still at 7-3, I didn't like it. It really would have made a huge difference in this game. Buffalo would not have been coming back from 3 or 4 points down. They would have been coming back trying to make up 7 points in this game. It was a huge difference. Huge game turner in my mind. Number 8, Jaguars late defensive fatigue. And this is so true. Buffalo had the ball for almost 34 minutes in this game. Jacksonville's defense did play tough early on. It was really a good game. At the halftime, the Bills were winning at 10-7. It had been a very close game. But the running of Allen particularly just wore him down. And it wasn't really just the running. It was also these little dinky passes that he continued to throw in the game that the Jaguars had such a difficult time trying to cover. Really hurt the Jaguars. They just did wear down ultimately. Number 9, the Bills' ability to adjust at halftime, which is a key. They're winning 10-7, but it was a close game. Buffalo struggled early, but they improved their protection. They leaned more on Allen, which is usually what happens, and they had better balance in the second half versus the Jaguars. And number 10 for me, Cohen's decision to not stick with the run. I do not understand this at all. In this game, Jacksonville rushed for 154 yards. I think they could have ran for 250, but they didn't. They decided to throw the ball over and over, and I didn't know why. Trevor Lawrence was 18 for 30 for 207 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. On the other hand, in the run game, Travis Etienne, 10 carries, only 10 carries, 67 yards, 6.7 yards a carry. Sean Tootin, 4 carries for 51 yards. That's 12.75 yards a carry. And then Trevor Lawrence had 6 carries for 31 yards. They rushed it 23 times, 154 yards, 6.7 yards a carry. I swear they could have ran this ball the first second, or from the very beginning, they could have ran. I mean, they had the lead, they had the opportunity, but every time they came out and passed it, they missed the pass or whatever, and now it's 2nd and 10 or whatever. And they had to run. They had to pass it. I just think everybody understood that the Bills' weakness was their rush defense, and it was proved out. Why we did not take more advantage of it. Instead of 23 carries in this game, the Jacksonville Jaguars should have had 33-40 rushing attempts in the game, and I think they would have won the game handily. They would have controlled the tempo, just pound them. They would have been the one pounding the Bills, not the other way around. And I don't know, that's the biggest key to me, is why not run the ball when you were running it successfully in the game? It's clear that the Jaguars were, whenever they decided to run it. Why didn't you just stick to it and run it, pound it, force them to stop you? And they, until they could prove they could, you should have just kept on running. So that's, to me, the biggest key. The biggest key, if the Jaguars would have won, was the fact that they did shut down James Cook and Josh Allen. They had a total of 26 rushing attempts for only 79 yards. That's 3 yards a carry. They held them in check as far as running goes. but it was the passing game of Josh Allen that really hurt him. All right, let's move on to another game. Get over that misery. All right, next game up. This was a wild game to watch too. Fun game. San Francisco 49ers beat the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia 23-19. Can you believe that? It was a crazy game and just a fun game to watch. Now, the 10 keys to the 49ers winning this game and the Eagles losing. The first one, number one, this was a crazy play. The 49ers hit on a 61-yard haymaker on the second play. It was wild. They opened with this pass, a 61-yard catch and run by Demarcus Robinson, which immediately flipped the field and set up their first touchdown. That's not even the biggest play they had in the game, but that was a fun play to see right off the bat. Demarcus Robinson had a big game. 6 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. Huge for him. Number 2, Christian McCaffrey was the best player on the field. He scored 2 touchdowns, including the go-ahead 4-yard touchdown pass from Brock Purdy with under 3 minutes to go. He's just did everything for this team. It was such a fun game to watch. And despite the fact that he had 15 carries in the game, 15 rushes, but only 48 yards. That's only 3.2 yards a carry. But he had to. It was just so important. He had 6 catches in the game as well for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's how important he was in this game, as well as was Demarcus Robinson, who also had 6 catches for 111 yards. But McCaffrey touched the ball 21 times in the game, and they really needed him to do that because George Kittle went out. Man, how the 49ers continue to win is amazing. When they keep losing key players, they lost Kittle early, man, and he was just being shoved out of bounds, and his ankle, he went out, and it looks like maybe he tore his Achilles or something. I'm not sure yet. I don't know that they know officially, but he's probably gone for the rest of the playoffs, however long that is for the 49ers. Number 3, Kyle Shanahan's trick play masterpiece. This was fun. Purdy gets the ball. He laterals it to Juwan Jennings, who's the wide receiver, who runs around. And Juwan Jennings did a great job of faking this. He puts that ball under his arm like he's going to do an end run around the right side of the field. And as he starts to do that and the defenders come up to get him, he pulls the ball out and he throws a touchdown pass to McCaffrey. And it was a really good pass, but it was even a better catch by McCaffrey. Over the shoulder, man, it was incredible. But it was a trick play that worked, and it just swung the momentum, put the 49ers in the lead, and it just stunned Philadelphia. It was an amazing play. The defender on McCaffrey dropped off him because he honestly thought that Jennings was starting to run and let McCaffrey go free in the end zone. Number 4, the Eagles' offense completely collapsed late in the game. The Philadelphia Eagles on their first 3 drives had 177 yards of offense, but their last 3 drives had -1 yard. How bad is that? That's a meltdown right there. And you could see it on the sideline even. So, wow, that's the Eagles in a nutshell. Looking good sometimes and bad other times. Number 5, A.J. Brown's drops, not just drops, really hurt the team at crucial moments. In fact, Nick Sirianni, the coach, had to defend the Brown in the postgame because of the drops that stalled their play or killed their rhythm. Pretty bad game when you're the star player to have those types of drops. You don't expect it, but it was not good. Number 6, Jake Elliott's missed extra point changed the math. Missed an extra point. And like I said, it changed the math. Instead of having to for the Eagles having to just get a field goal to tie, they needed 4 points, so they had to go for the touchdown. That made a difference. The extra point may not have seemed to matter early on. It was when the 49ers are up 7-0. Eagles score at 7-6. They missed the extra point. Now it's 7-6 instead of 7-7. And it mattered down at the end of the game. Number 7, the Eagles couldn't finish in the red zone. Like I said, they moved the ball early, had 177 yards in their first 3 times they had the ball. But they had a hard time converting late in the game, especially. While, believe it or not, the 49ers converted. And, I mean, they had to use trickery, whatever they did, but they were able to find a way. Number 8, Brock Purdy's composure in high-level moments. He really was composed. Not the greatest game for him, but he did stay composed and kept him in the game. Brock Purdy was 18 completions on 31 attempts, 262 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Had a quarterback rating of 80.3. So not great, but, when it came into the most important times, he was able to deliver the go-ahead touchdown, avoiding any mistakes that the Philadelphia defense tried to pressure him into. Number 9, the 49ers defense tightened as the game went on. Early on, as I said, the Eagles seemed to have no problem moving up and down the field. Even Barkley was running well, passing was going fine. But the Eagles were held to just 6 points in the second half. So the 49ers defense, which is, as everybody knows, has missed their 2 best players from most of the season. They were, even the announcer was talking about, they're playing with some people on defense who are like their 5th, 6th, or 7th best player at the positions. Just like, who can we get to play on our team, because people are dropping like flies for this 49ers team. And yet their defense were up to the task against the Eagles. Number 10, the Eagles played with fire all season. That's what I was talking about earlier. And they finally got burned. By the way, this is what I think will happen to Chicago as well. You can't always come back from behind and win a game. Sooner or later, it doesn't work. But the Eagles just could not get their offense to be in sync consistently, and it cost them. And the Eagles Wire, which is the thing that puts out news about the Eagles, said playing with fire throughout the entire season, and their late game stagnation, the fact that they couldn't score, haunted them, and it resurfaced at the worst possible time. So unlike, say, the Chicago Bears, who were behind and kick it into high gear in the third and fourth quarter, especially the fourth quarter, the Eagles couldn't do it. They were in the game, but they just could not put together anything to pull this game out, and they end up losing. So the Super Bowl champions are out of the playoffs. All right, next game. That is the Los Angeles Chargers versus the New England Patriots. This was a tight game for a while, but man, did Herbert take a beating. The game ended up 16-3 in favor of the Patriots, but halftime it was 6-3, and after the third quarter it was 9-3. This was a field goal game until the end in the fourth quarter, when the Patriots finally scored a touchdown, the only touchdown in the game, a 28-yard pass from Drake May to Hunter Henry. Let's look at the top 10 keys in this game. This was a masterpiece on defense for the New England Patriots. They held Justin Herbert and the Chargers to 207 yards of offense and only 1 field goal. It was pretty impressive to see. Justin Herbert, 19 completions, 31 attempts, 159 yards. That's all he threw for. 5 yards an attempt. Versus Drake May, who had 9 yards an attempt. They sacked Herbert 6 times for 39 yards. That's how many times they sacked him. Not how many times they pressured him all night long. Herbert had a quarterback rating of 74.5. Number 2, Justin Herbert never found rhythm, which is true. He just didn't have the protection. He constantly was more interested in trying to stay from being hit again and again, that he had a hard time, finding anybody to pass to, except unless it was a dump off. And it was just the pass rush for New England was just too strong for him. Number 3, 6 sacks and relentless pressure. Like I said, they sacked Herbert 6 times, and they consistently collapsed the pocket onto Herbert, which made it rough for him all night long. He got beat up. Man, him and Josh Allen got beat up pretty rough in their games. Josh Allen comes out the winner for his team, while Herbert goes home. Number 4, Drake May's poise in his first playoff game. This game was close the whole way through, despite the lack of offense by the Chargers. Their defense held up for as long as they could. And after the third quarter, it was still only 9-3. So a touchdown by the Chargers puts them in the lead, but they didn't get it. And in fact, it was May who came through with a touchdown, a fourth quarter touchdown. That was a 7-play, 80-yard drive that they put on late in the game to put the game away. Drake May, 17 completions on 29 attempts for 268 yards. Like I said, 9 yards an attempt, almost double the yards per attempt of Herbert. 1 touchdown, did have an interception. He had a quarterback rating of 86.6. Not great, but it was his first playoff game. And but he did hold his poise in this game. Number 5, May's legs changed the game. That was key in this game as well. It was May who led the team in rushing. Him and Stevenson both had 10 carries, but Drake May had 10 carries for 66 yards, including a 37-yard run that was key to setting up a field goal late in the first half. Man, you think that they may not be able to get another score here, but that 37-yard run gave them a chance to kick a field goal. They make it. They get another 3 points. Stevenson had 10 carries for 53 yards, which wasn't bad, but it was really Drake May throwing and running. Number 6, Chargers red zone failure after a gifted opportunity. This is when Henley intercepted May, and the Chargers had the ball at the Patriots' 10-yard line, came away with no points because on 4th down and 2 from the goal, they couldn't get in the end zone, and no points there. And I don't blame them, though, honestly, for going for a touchdown there. You're at the 10-yard line with 4 plays to score. You get down to the 2 on 4th down. You probably want to go for it. At that point in the game, it's a little different than the Jaguar game where you would have went up by 7. You're only down by 3 at this point. Why not go for it? Number 7, Patriots won the situational football battle here. In key points in the game, it was the Patriots who would get the first down, like May's scramble that set up that field goal. Or also New England, at key points in the game, they got the stop. The Chargers on 3rd down, 1 out of 10 times they made 3rd down conversions. That's 10%. That's pitiful. And on 4th down, they made it 1 out of 3 for 33%. So 3rd and 4th down conversion was 2 out of 13. That's the Patriots winning that situational football battle. Number 8, Chargers offensive line just crumbled. And it was true the entire game pretty much. But second half, the pressure, constant pressure by the New England Patriots wore this offensive line down. Number 9, the Patriots secondary smothered the LA receivers. And that's true. Herbert could not find anything down the field. Everything was dinking and dunking. That's the best he seemed to be able to do in this game. His longest pass was 20 yards. And that was it. Number 10, Mike Vrabel's team played with edge and identity. He told his team before the game to be prepared to bleed, and they played like it. They played physical. They dominated the Chargers. It was just a disciplined, good game, and they won. All right, last game. This is the Houston Texans versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. This was very similar, actually, to the last game in a way. This was a hard-fought game for a while between the two defenses, but in the end, it was too much of the Houston defense and nothing that the Pittsburgh Steelers seemed to be able to do about it. Let's take a look at that. So the 10 keys to the Texans' victory over the Steelers. Number 1, defensive dominance. Their defense was the star of this game by far. All the mistakes that C.J. Stroud made, and yet it didn't seem to matter to the Houston's defense. They forced multiple turnovers in this game. Rodgers had an interception. They had 2 fumbles, which they lost one of them. It was just a rough game for them. And the worst one was, of course, at the end there when it was already, the game was pretty much going to be wrapped up, but another fumble by Rodgers. Sheldon Rankin, the defensive player, picks it up, kind of rumbles in for 33 yards for a touchdown. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers was contained, which is obvious with the defense doing so well. He could never find rhythm. Early on, he had this happens a lot with the Steelers, right off the bat, a nice pass to Metcalf, but after that was kind of it. For the rest of the game, never could get a touchdown in this game. It was really a bad game all the way around. Metcalf had 2 catches for 42 yards, but he had one right as I said early in the game for 25 yards. After that, one more catch for 17 yards the entire game. Wow. Number 3, turnovers decided the game. And that's true because C.J. Stroud fumbled 5 times. He lost 2 of them. And now they call these fumbles, but one time he's not even looking when the center hiked the ball. But they lost 2 of those fumbles, and he threw an interception. And yet the Steelers could get no touchdowns out of it. It was you would think you have that many times you fumble the ball or turn it over, you don't win. But the Houston defense was able to win this game for the team despite the offense. Number 4, Christian Kirk's big game. Wow. He was the MVP on offense. 8 catches, 144 yards, including a second quarter touchdown that really kind of put them out to a lead that the Steelers couldn't overcome. He really was impressive in this game. He just continued to get open. 8 catches, 144 yards, and a touchdown. 8 out of 9 catches he had. 9 times the ball was thrown his way. He had 8 catches. Number 5, second half surge. The Texans scored 23 points in the fourth quarter, which turned this game from a close contest to a blowout. And it does look like it's a blowout. When you win this game 30-6, it looks like a blowout. But honestly, at halftime, Houston was winning this game 7-6, and no points were scored in the third quarter. It wasn't until the fourth quarter when the Steelers became desperate that they started making mistakes. So instead of, again, I'll look at the Chicago Bears or even the Rams. Instead of making a comeback, they're more like the Eagles. They couldn't put it together. They couldn't make that comeback, and they ended up losing the game. Number 6, Steelers' offensive inefficiency. They only had 2 field goals. They couldn't sustain a drive. No scores in the second half. They had a total of 175 yards of net offense in this game. That's terrible. Aaron Rodgers had 146 yards passing, but he was sacked 4 times for 36 yards. So that's net yards of only 110. yards per attempt, worse than the other game when we were looking at. Only 4.4 yards an attempt. Horrendous. Just a powerful offense for the Texans. Number 7, Texans' resilience despite Stroud's struggles. Stroud made so many mistakes in this game, but the defense and special teams kept the Texans afloat. And until finally, the offense did find its rhythm. Number 8, DeMarco Ryans' coaching impact. He leaned on his defense. He stayed aggressive with his defense, and he made certain adjustments at halftime, and they won this game. And that's the way, it was just good coaching there. Number 9, physical edge in the trenches. Honestly, I thought this was close both ways for the first half, but ultimately, Houston had the ball for 32 and a half minutes to 27 and a half. Ultimately, the Pittsburgh Steelers just kind of got wore down. Your defense could only hold up so long. And then also the offensive line, in the end, they did their job. Mark started getting through for some big runs in this game. He had really a good game, 19 carries for 112 yards and a touchdown. It was toward the end, the Steelers just couldn't stop the offense. Once they started finally getting on a roll, it was difficult for the Steelers. Number 10, and this is historic road win for the Houston Texans. This was their first ever road playoff victory. Is that amazing or what? First ever road playoff victory. So Houston moves on, representing the AFC South. They were the Wildcard team. All right, the next round of playoffs for the playoffs is Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, the Buffalo Bills play at Denver. Find that game on CBS at 4:30. Denver's favored by 1.5. The second game at 8 o'clock on Fox is San Francisco 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks are favored by 7.5. Eagles are favored by a lot too. I do think Seattle will win it though. On Sunday, Houston Texans at the New England Patriots. That's a 3 o'clock game on ABC or ESPN. The Patriots are favored by 3. And then the Rams go to Chicago for the last game of the series of the 4 games at 6:30 on NBC or Peacock. The Rams are favored by 3.5. That's a little interesting. That could be could that be a high scoring game right there? That'll be a fun one to watch. So 4 games. Going to get down to the last 2 teams here. We'll see what happens. All right. Appreciate you listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please like and subscribe. You can find this podcast on YouTube at Just the Stats NFL. Please like and subscribe there. Leave your comments. And tomorrow, get into something new. We probably get a little bit away from the playoffs, maybe talk about the past season, a couple of upcoming things. We'll see. So until tomorrow, that is a wrap for NFL Top 10s for Tuesday. I'm out. See you tomorrow.